Hi guys, my name is Sabrina and welcome back to my channel. I am back today with another Copic marker drawing and I'm so excited to color this one in. It's so nice. It's not my usual thing that I do. This drawing idea just came to me out of nowhere. I don't even know how. I didn't even look at pictures or anything that could have inspired this drawing. It just came to me, so to say, and I was like, well, let's see how it's going to work when I put this down on paper. And it worked quite well. I left the eyes blank without the pupil in them because I thought that might suit the drawing just a bit more. I did try to put a pupil in there with pencil, but I erased it because I felt like it didn't suit it at all. And I suppose very soon you'll see what I mean with that as well. So what I did for this drawing is I started out with a different skin tone as I usually do. Usually I go for a bit lighter, but I was like, no, I think a bit darker might suit this drawing a bit more. And I even wanted to go darker than this. I just did not have the right colors to make it look nice as how I wanted it to be. So those colors are definitely going on my to buy list because I want to be able to draw someone a bit darker. I think that's beautiful, really nice, and I think it would have made more sense with this drawing in my head anyway. I was quite happy with the result regardless. So what I did for this is I colored in the skin tones completely. So I started with the arms, then like the neck, and then the head, and that all got the same base layer. Now in hindsight, I think I should have done one bit at a time and then shaded in those bits because the shading and the blending goes easier when the marker is still wet and they dry quite fast. So I found that when I came back to certain areas, you can see it at like the arms and the neck especially, that when they're dry and you're trying to go over it and blend it, it leaves a few streaks. So lesson for the next time, I suppose. Hopefully I'll remember because it will make my drawing so much better if the blending is more seamless, and it will look much nicer than having a bit of streaks on the drawing itself. It doesn't look bad, it's just something that I know I have to change for next time. Now I did try and see if I wanted to go for a bit of a darker blush, but I was afraid that blush was going to be too dark. So I went for a light blush and I think it pulls away some of the skin tone, but I think it does work a little more than the darker blush. Now I had a piece of paper next to me and I tested it out on there with like the darker shade on these skin tones, and it didn't come out as I wanted to. It came out quite dark and quite prominent, and I wanted her blush to be more subtle. Now you can see that for the fingers, they're transforming into branches. So that was my idea behind it. I wanted them to go into like 3 branches, and so I shaded them accordingly as well. And they won't become darker than this, but like the trees themselves are going to get that brown as well. So for her eyes, I wanted to stay close to nature, so I went to green. I love green. It's my favorite color in the whole wide world. It has been for as long as I can remember, and it works well with this. So I went ahead with I think 3 or 4 different shades of green, and I started out with the lightest color and I went over it with like darker colors. And the very darkest color I just went over on like the top edge of the eye. It just gives a bit more shading to the eye itself and the illusion that it's got a bit more depth in it. Otherwise the image itself will be quite flat, and this just helps it a little bit more. And that is why I don't know if you can see it in here. You might see it in like the final images that I have, that I used a neutral gray as well, number 1. It's very subtle, but eyes are not pure white. They need a bit of shading. So at the top I put a neutral gray in and I blended that in with the white. So it's got more of that effect going on as well. So for the hair, I was really doubting which color to use. I was like, will I use a brown? But then with the browns, I've already used that for the branches, and what if it's going to blend into each other too much and there's not too much of a difference going on there. I didn't want to go for a really bright color as well, so I opted to go for a blondie color. So that's what I've done here. Again, I went for the full layer of blonde of the lightest color. I've used, so the colors I've used for the hair are E40, E41 and E43, and I think those really help getting a nice subtle shade of blonde. You have other shades of blonde too, I just don't feel like I have the right markers for them yet, so I still have a lot more markers to get, you guys. It's crazy and they're really expensive, so bear with me and I'll try to switch it up a little bit more. I can make a character with blue hair, that'd be nice. That might be an idea actually. So I went in after I put the entire layer of E40 down. I went in with my E41 and I gave her hair just a bit more shade. And I think what happened is I stopped recording for some reason. And then I went back, but I forgot to hit record again. Whoopsie. So if you see the images jump, then that's it. I couldn't really find it myself, but I know it happened. I really know it happened. It did happen. So yeah, whoops. Now for like the branches that are going underneath her, I used the same darker brown as I wanted to use for the actual trees as well, and for the tips of her fingers. Because like they're from like the same thing, so they're both branches, they're all branches and they're all from trees, so that was my whole concept here, and I wanted to shade that in as well. So the darkest brown I have is E77, so I did like the shading areas of those branches with that color, so you can see that like I've tried to have the light come from like the front right-ish area, and I think it kind of works, except for the trees. I kind of dirt with the trees, but I will explain that in a second. So for the actual stems of the trees, I've used the same brown and I've tried to blend them in to the hair as much as I could. Now they're not colors that are close together for blending in, so maybe I should have picked like another middle color to help it blend in even more. But I didn't. I was like, no, this should work, and I know there's a distinction there, and maybe that's just the way it's supposed to be. Maybe I just want to have that done like that. So when I moved on to the trees, I've tested this out on a piece of paper right next to me a few times, because I've never drawn trees like this. I've never drawn trees with copic markers to begin with. I've never drawn, well, I might have drawn trees with pencils, but I don't know how old I was. I don't think it was recent anyway. So I was like, how am I going to do this? So I picked out a number of colors, and you'll see them at the left side of the screen as well. And I've used even more colors than I have there. I think I have like 3 or 4 at the left there. And I've ended up using 4 or 5, I believe. So I went in with the lightest shade of green to get the highlighted areas done. And it felt so weird. It felt as if it wasn't coming together for the longest time ever. So I went in with like the second color, which was Y05 or Y07, one of those two. And I started working on the shadowy areas to try and get those done. And after that, you can see me going back with darker colors the entire time to try and get that shaded area in. And as I said, guys, for the longest time, it felt as if it wasn't coming together. So I went back in with one of the lighter greens and I started down speckling it on the paper. So I started out with an even base, so I knew where to put the colors down. And then I started out with speckling all the colors on the trees to try and get some effect on it. And the more I did this, the more it kind of came together as well. I started going over the tree branches too, because leaves are literally everywhere on trees. Like, you can see through them, but they literally go in front of those tree branches as well. So I wanted to give that kind of effect there as well. The second I put down this darker shade of green, I was like, oh my god, what have I done? I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but it was. The more I put down the specs, and especially when I went over with the lighter colors a bit, the more it all came together, and I'm so happy with the outcome. I literally told my husband, I think 5 times in 2 minutes, how happy I was with those trees, to the point where he was saying, yeah, you already told me this. And I was like, yeah, but I'm really, really happy with them. Like, look at them. And I think not for the first time, but this is one of the rare scenarios where I felt like going in with a pencil. Actually, I wanted to make sure that the areas inside the trees were just a bit darker. And when you look at them, they're not one color. They're like all sorts of shades. So I want to make sure they had some black in them to help them out a little bit. And I'm glad I did. So then I moved on to the little leaves at the bottom branch that kind of surround her, because I wanted to have this drawing come together like that. I didn't want to have her just falling off the paper. I just wanted to have like a nice ending of the drawing, like it'll fit on one piece of paper like it was supposed to be. And I went in with a number of different greens. Again, I used the same shades as I did for the trees, because I wanted to keep them in the same range. I did not use the brown green shade. It's like a yellow green, but it's like dark, so it looks more like a few light brownish specks. I only used like the greenish colors, and I used a lot of them because I felt like it would come together more with the trees as well. It would look kind of the same, and I'm happy I did that. Like, the outcome is really nice. And after this I started working on the roses, and yeah, I'm just really happy with them. It's so silly that every time I finish a drawing, not every time, but when I finish a drawing, I keep getting new favorites, and I don't know if that's normal, but usually I'm like, well, I don't know about this, or I don't know about that. And this drawing has some of those things as well, but this is definitely one of my favorite drawings that I've made so far, and I'm just really happy with the outcome. I did not expect, maybe it's because I did not expect that outcome, especially with the trees. I did not know what to expect with the trees, and it came out looking so good. It didn't come out as good on the piece of test paper I've got next to me, and maybe I just don't know what it is. I was just like, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna give it a go, and you know, if it goes wrong, goes wrong. It's a learning experience, and that's that. So this is the end of my video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly love making it, especially once I noticed how the trees came out. It was amazing. And I ended up putting the light in her eyes as well with a paint pen. And I don't know if I should have had like more kind of gel pen, which is more a bit see-through that I have, or use this, but I've used the paint pen, so I'm happy with it. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.